the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Cold War was not, in fact, staged by, ego-driven powers of America and Russia and the paranoia that came out of that. It's actually driven by a maniacal, megalomaniac, world-changing mutant called Sebastian Shaw, as played by Kevin Bacon. And he tries to start World War III and a nuclear war, with Cuba being the staging point. He manoeuvres and manipulates both America and Russia into that meltdown moment. And if he'd succeeded, he would hopefully have seen, for him anyway, the human race annihilated. I think what happens in this film shows him that he's ahead of his time and ahead of current opinion, really, and that mutants won't be safe. Some of them might be, but not in every situation, and one day they might be, in the next week who knows what's going to happen in current affairs and world affairs and politics, and maybe they won't be safe. So I think that makes him decide to open the school for the gifted. Also, he's a scientist, and he spent his entire life studying mutation theory, and now he gets to study it practically and in actual physical presence of it. And I think that's part of it too. I also think that he's been alone for his entire life. He didn't have an extensive family, and I think he's felt very much alone. I think his power speaks volumes, really. His power has been able to connect to other people. One of the great facets of his power is that he can connect to other people really easily, and I think he's looking to connect. So he sort of builds a family for himself. We've got a real feel of the 60s, and we've got a real feel of, I think Matthew had a kind of an aesthetic in mind. He wanted to use a lot of the Bond kind of references and stuff like that. And we've got a bit of that in there, but we've also just got a nice splash of everyday 60s in there too, which I think is good. And it helps ground the film in something a bit more real and tangible too. At the moment in our story, it's to feel alone. Um, it's a lot to do with fear. It's to have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, whether you're a superhero or whether you're in an institution like the CIA or using your powers to help or hinder humanity or whatever. It seems to be there's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of all these kids and all these people who learn that they have powers. It's to doubt whether you have a place in society, because there is no niche, pocket or minority grouping that you can identify, that you can say, I belong to this. So it's about isolation. And then the story is kind of about coming together. It's about making connections and communicating and sharing and empathising and learning and maybe carving out a part of society, a little niche in society for yourself and people like you. But the hardest thing about mutants as well is that you might all go, right, we're all mutants, let's all get together, but every mutant is so different.